Lover of mine, oh how you shine. Written by Just Thinking Dravels. Read by Arashi. When Ferdinand had suggested that they take care of their tea breaks in the botanical garden, Hubert had had no objections. He wasn't one for flowers, but he never minded them all that much, and seeing Ferdinand happy was really all that he needed. Well, that and coffee, at least. Yet, when they arrived at the botanical garden, it was not what Hubert was expecting. Instead of the masses of common flowers and ordinary plants that one would expect to see, however, they were met with a variety of poisonous ones, all of different shapes, colors, and toxins. In fact, there wasn't a regular plant to be seen at all, and Ferdinand did not appear to notice in the slightest, or else he simply didn't mind, though Hubert was doubtful of this. As they made their way to the table which was set with their favorite drinks and snacks, Ferdinand held out Hubert's chair for him. He thanked him, and took a seat, watching as Ferdinand then sat across from him, and began pouring some coffee into his cup. Afterwards, he poured some tea into his own cup, and took a sip, humming happily at the taste. "Delightful as ever! How was your coffee, Hubert? Is it to your liking?" Hubert, having almost forgotten about his coffee the moment it was poured in favor of looking at the garden, startled at his voice, before he turned to him. He took a generous swig of the coffee, before placing it on the small saucer once more, and nodding. "Very wonderful. Almost perfect, in fact." "Almost?" Ferdinand repeated with an adorable pout. "What a shame! It seems I still have a bit to go before I can make your coffee the way you prefer it. But I will get there one day. Make no mistake." Hubert chuckled fondly. "I have no doubt that you will, my sunlight." The smile that his compliment brought to Ferdinand's face made his own cheeks bloom with warmth. That one grin of his was so radiant and bright that he almost felt blinded every time he saw it. Whenever he saw that smile, he always felt as though he was falling in love with the man all over again, and what a strange, lovely feeling that was. They were silent for a long moment, as they sat in one another's presence, content to simply enjoy each other's company as they drank their respective drinks and admired their surroundings. Yet, for this rare occasion, it was Hubert who broke their amiable silence, his mind unable to ignore the question of the scenery any longer. "Ferdy, my light, may I ask—" hummed Ferdinand, as he looked at him curiously. He cleared his throat, hoping desperately not to be offensive with his phrasing. "Are you aware of the manner of plants within this garden?" His lover laughed at his very serious question, and his brows furrowed at the odd reaction. "Why, of course, my love! This location was actually suggested to me by Bernadetta, as she thought you might enjoy it." Hubert's eyes widened in shock. Ferdinand had truly brought him here as a surprise. He took another look around the garden, admiring the beautiful flower buds which hung off some of the plants, and the way the sunlight shone into the room, igniting everything in a golden light. Yet his focus did not stay on the flowers for long, for he could not keep his gaze away from Ferdinand. The man was mesmerizing in every way, and so incredibly loving. He wanted so badly to do something for him as well, and he immediately began to think of things Ferdinand might enjoy as well. Perhaps for the next date he could acquire some tickets to the opera for them, or go with him on a horseback ride into the countryside where they could have a picnic and spend the day together. But for now, Hubert wanted to focus on the present and the dazzling man in front of him. He reached his hand across the table, a gentle smile on his face, and Ferdinand took his hand in return. He noted absently the difference in their hands, not only in their size, but also their temperature. Ferdinand's hands were always much warmer, but it didn't bother Hubert since his hands were always so cold. "Thank you, sunlight, for bringing me here." He gently kissed the back of his hand, and revelled in the blush that crossed Ferdinand's face as he did. "Of course, my love, anything for you." He gave his hand an affectionate squeeze in return, and Hubert, not for the first time in his life, felt as though he were the luckiest man in the world. The urge to kiss him once again overwhelmed him, and he did not stop himself, though this time he stood up and came beside him so that he could place several kisses to his lips, cheeks, the top of his head, anywhere that he could reach. He wished there was a way for him to mark his path, have it be known that Ferdinand Von Aegir was his, and vice versa, though that surely went without saying, but he supposed that for now the simple knowledge of it would have to do. Ferdinand sighed happily at Hubert's array of affection, and pulled him away so that he could cup his cheek. There was something vulnerable and loving in the way that he looked at him, and it made Hubert want to run from him, and yet into his arms as well, and his mind grew dizzy with the simple thought that he loved this man, utterly and unflinchingly. There was no one who could ever love half as much as he loved Ferdinand, and he surmised that he felt the same of him, a notion he hoped was not unfounded. As if reading his mind, Ferdinand spoke then, and his words stopped Hubert in his tracks. "You are so precious to me, Hubert. I hope you know that." It did not need to be said. He knew. He had known for such a long time. But even so, hearing the words affirmed it for him, and he felt something inside of him melt. He took Ferdinand's chin between his thumb and index finger, and lifted him closer to his face. He hadn't the words to respond properly, and so he simply sealed his feelings with a kiss. And Ferdinand, as always, knew exactly what he meant, kissing him in return with as much love and fervor as he was given.